Welcome back to another edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm your co-host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again is Richie Schneiderite and Chris Nalwasky. Guys, we are going to talk season predictions today. You guys put an article out on the site, but we're going to go through game by game and give our thoughts on how Rutgers' chances look for each game. But first, this podcast is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports, contests, and events with first-to-market odds and lines. You can find reviews for news in every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports information, from live in-game betting, props, and futures. You can head over to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to join. Make your first sports bet. Use the promo code BELIEVE50, BLEAV50, to receive 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts.
2-0 on BetOnline, baby. 2-0.
Oh, yeah?
I don't mean to
That's
brag,
awesome.
but UConn plus 28 was a lock.
It almost wasn't with Roberson going down. They found a creative way to blow a 14-point lead.
Yeah, I was getting nervous at one point. But and then Vanderbilt minus 11 versus Hawaii. Easy money.
Nice.
I'm rooting for my guy,
Easy.
AJ Blazik, down there. So gotta show some love there.
Yeah.
But anyway, geez, I can't talk. We're also sponsored by Adam Goldman. If you're kind of bored of that like typical cubicle job and just sitting in that little corner of the office every day, just reach out to Adam Goldman. He's a the franchise coach is his nickname. He's an experienced entrepreneur. Geez, that's a hard word. He's a Jersey-born guy, Watchung Hills alum, Night Report member, Scarlet Knights fan, franchise veteran. He kind of just uses his expertise to kind of help others find their own type of American dream. So, I mean, if you're interested in starting your own business, reach out to him, franchisecoach.net, or you can give him a call, 844-800-3726. It's 844-800-3726, the franchise coach. Boom. That was the best one I did yet.
Yeah, you're getting better at that. It's not easy to read these scripts live either. So
No.
Well, on to the content here, guys. So, season preview. Obviously, our first game is this upcoming weekend, Saturday versus Boston College. I want to talk high-level stuff with you guys first off. Obviously, the schedule this year is tougher than last year. Do you think this team is better overall as a team than last year? More talented, higher potential?
Chris, I'll let you go first with that one.
That's actually right off the bat. I think we got a little hardball here. I'm gonna go that maybe last year's was more talented. That's really tough to say. But I mean, you got a couple guys that are in the NFL now doing well. Fadukasi's been doing well in Tampa. Bill Mel and Pacheco might be the starting running back for the Chiefs. So, I mean, there was some NFL talent last year that a lot of veteran guys. I think this year's team, I think they're on the cusp of developing into something great, I guess you could say. But maybe they're not right quite at their level, and combined with the schedule and everything that they have, I think you might see some rough patches. But overall, I think the season will go pretty well. Just I think last year's team was just a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on with that. It's no question that they lost a lot of talent. I know record doesn't say this team was talented last year with only 5 wins, but Fadukasi's doing great. Pacheco's doing great. Bo Melton was your top receiver for the past 4 seasons. What, I don't even remember at this point. 4 seasons, whatever. You lost a ton of guys. It's no question that this team isn't as good. Are they younger? Could they be better? Yeah, of course. Potential-wise, I think their potential is much higher, but they're nowhere near there yet. The linebacker core alone is nowhere near what it was last year. Defensive line, you can argue, is a little bit better per se. You also lost your top pass rusher. People keep forgetting that Mohamed Toure isn't here anymore. I know he didn't have the numbers to back him up, but he still had 4.5 sacks, and led the team with that.
4.5.
So, I mean, you lost him. You lost your top 2 linebackers, top 3 linebackers. And Tyreek Maddox-Williams looks good in the NFL. I forgot about him, too.
Yeah.
I saw he was the highest graded defensive player on PFF for week 2 in the preseason. Which is pretty cool.
And then Trey Avery is, borderline making a roster. I know it's probably practice squad at the end of the day. He didn't get cut yet from what I saw. when we're recording this. But I mean, there's a lot of talent they lost on, especially on defense. It's going to be hard to replace these guys, and then offense too. Top rusher, top receiver, offensive line. You lost your left tackle. Like, I know everyone wants to talk about BC starting 5 new linemen. Rutgers is starting 4 new linemen. Like, it's tough.
So let's kind of fold that right into the opening game. So we're playing Boston College on Saturday in Chestnut Hill. It's a noon game. Rutgers is a 7.5-point dog right now. How do you guys see that game going?
You want to go first or me? Or you want to just flip-flop?
No, go ahead.
7.5 points.
Yep.
I know people don't want to hear it. I'm proud. I might take BC in the points. Like, I think BC wins this game. I don't think there's a question about it. BC's more experienced. They have an NFL quarterback, which Greg just said today. I think you could also argue they have an NFL running back who just ran for 1,000 yards. They have an NFL wide receiver in Zay Flowers, who's a stud. Yeah, they're starting new linemen, but like, people act like this was out of nowhere. Like, 5 linemen just got hurt. Yeah, they lost their top guy in Christian Mahogany, who was like number 2 on Mel Kiper's draft board for guards, but they still were. Some of these guys are still studs. Like, they're 4-star. Oh, look, another 4-star. Like, they recruited pretty well over the past couple seasons under Hafley, and I just think Rutgers offense has to. I need to see it. You got to prove it to me that you can actually get yardage down the field. And then you're going to tell me this Rutgers offense that lost their top receiver, top rusher, maybe their best lineman, is going to be all of a sudden start going up and down the field against a decent BC team. Like, I don't know. I like BC right now a lot. Like, I think it's hard to root against them, and there's a reason Vegas has it at 7.5. Put it like that.
Yeah, I know Rutgers has played Boston, or hasn't played. I know, actually, they played Boston College a couple years ago in 2019. You know, Boston College won that game. Overall, Boston College is 26-1 against Rutgers. Rutgers last won in 2004. They obviously hadn't played since 2004. Before the 2019 game. But yeah, I mean, I'm actually gonna probably pick Rutgers in this one. I think Rutgers will be improved on offense. I think their defensive line. I know Shannon said they run about 10 deep. I think they'll be able to keep those guys fresh, and they're really talented. I know Richie kind of alluded to earlier about guys have a lot of potential, and I think maybe this is too early to see the potential in a lot of the position groups. But just overall, I think Rutgers will be prepared. I think obviously Shannon wants to get this one. You know, everyone's being very, very, very cautious this summer about the information and everything like that. I think they really want this one. If Rutgers wants to go to a bowl game, they have to win this game, right? That's just the math. That's just playing in the Big Ten. So I mean, I think Rutgers is going to come out swinging, and usually Rutgers does well in season openers under Shiano. So they, you've seen that the past 2 years. Michigan State, especially a couple years ago. So yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not surprised that Boston College is favored. I would think they would be. But don't count out Rutgers in this one. This is a big reason why I have Rutgers winning. The amount of games that they do was because I think they're going to beat Boston College this weekend.
So I kind of agree, Chris, that opening week in college football is kind of like it's a tone setter in a lot of ways. Like, you only have a very limited amount of information. There's so many guys that get turned over each year. Boston College, their offensive line's totally replacement, and it's one thing if they got a bunch of transfers who were starters at a lower level or guys who had played a lot in their careers, but most of these guys are either redshirt freshmen or redshirt sophomores. They have a combined 4 starts across the 5 projected offensive linemen they have in their entire careers. So I think you got a very green offensive line. You got a very veteran-laden defensive line for Rutgers. You got a guy who's very familiar with the offensive coordinator and John McNulty and what he likes to run. You got a defense that's going to be aggressive. We don't really know what the defense is going to look like under Harris-Simiak. I know under Rob Smith it was just like this vanilla garbage that wasn't ever going to succeed no matter what kind of players you had, unless it was like an Ohio State defense. So I really do see this as a big measuring stick game for Rutgers. And I'm going to pick Rutgers here too, because the big, obviously, X factor is their quarterback play is probably going to be better than our quarterback play. So we need to put pressure early and often on their quarterback. his name's slipping my mind, but he's actually very good.
Phil Jerkovich.
Yeah, Phil Jerkovich. Sorry. I've been doing a lot of research on BC. I don't know why. It just kind of escaped my mind at the moment. Another kind of interesting wrinkle is Pat Garwo, their star running back. He's a very good runner, but he's not a great receiver or a pass blocker either. Mm-hmm. So if he's literally one of the worst pass blockers according to PFF from last year. His grade was like a 16 out of 100. So if we get enough pressure on them, like they basically got a turnstile at running back. So that's going to be where the game's won and lost, in my opinion. Rutgers' defensive line versus Boston College's offensive line, because Boston College, I don't really feel like they have a standout on defense. They have a pretty undersized defense. It's not very fast. They do have a really good secondary, but I see Rutgers pulling this one out. I just see Greg finding a way.
I could tell you after talking to the BC Rivals guy, one name to watch, and I'm probably going to mispronounce the fuck out of this one. Donovan Raku or whatever. I don't know. He's an edge rusher from Williamstown, New Jersey. They've been hyping him up all camp apparently, and he's going to be their go-to edge guy. So he's very confident that this is going to be his breaking out party. You'll read more about that in our Q&A with him later this week. But yeah, they're very confident in him, and then obviously they're confident in their offense. They think this O-line, regardless of new guys or not, it's still going to be a pretty damn good offensive line. Maybe not great, but enough to protect Dirk Jerkovich and showcase his NFL ability. I think he's number QB 6 or 7 on Mel Kiper's board, something like that. So I mean, it's not like he's a pushover by any means. And on top of that, I mentioned it before the pod to you guys. Halfley's he's very hyped for this game. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, I hear there's a bit of shit talking going on in there internally.
A little bit. I mean, of course, this guy was his mentor at one point, for a couple years at Tampa Bay and Rutgers. If you could beat him, that's wow, you're surpassing the master. That's huge. It's like Fleck in Minnesota, and now we got Halfley at Boston College, and if Halfley's going to get a better job without a doubt, and then this would just be another notch in his belt for his resume in order to get that next job. So this is a big game for Halfley. This is a big game for Rutgers. It's going to be interesting. And there's a ton of Jersey guys on both sides. I think the Jersey guys at BC are kind of going to be like, you know what? This is it. Let's prove why we went here instead of Rutgers or whatever. So it's going to be an interesting game.
Yeah, plus you got two starters.
And aside from Halfley, sorry.
No, you got two projected starters on Rutgers who are BC transfers too. Or maybe not two big impact guys, I should say, between Langan, who's probably the starter, and Ireland Brown, who's going to be one of the probably top 10 offensive linemen.
Yeah,
they both previously were at BC.
It's interesting. Those guys are going to be hyped too, and I know Greg mentioned it in the presser. Ireland Brown, you got to calm him down a little bit because he's going to be very hyped. And Greg said word for word, this guy touches the ball every single play. You got to tone it down a little bit. I know you see him on Instagram and social media, he's already pretty hyped. But now for this game, it's ooh, an extra level of confidence going in there.
Yeah, I talked to Ireland Brown last week about it. He was like you said, he was pretty pumped to be playing them. He didn't give Boston College any bulletin board material about I want to beat them, but obviously he's going to be choosing to go up against his former team.
Another interesting wrinkle. So that Donovan Izariku from Boston College was Aaron Lewis's high school teammate at Williamstown. So
there you go.
Cool. Another connection there.
It's going to be an interesting game. They got Jersey guys starting all throughout that defense. So
yeah, and there's other guys on staff that coach under Shiano or played at Rutgers. Tem Lukabu.
Lukabu.
Probably butchered his name there. Steve Simcoe, Savin Huggins. Obviously John McNulty too. So there's a lot of guys that have coached at Rutgers or coached at Tampa under Shiano, so obviously they're familiar with each other. Obviously, I know Shiano said earlier in training camp, actually, he was asked about it, how, they kind of learn things along the way, so you can't really, go back and be like, oh, well, he's going to do this or that. But, just having that familiarity, with each other always helps. And, of course, nobody wants to lose against somebody so I'm sure that also plays a factor.
For sure. Let's move on to the next game. This one, I don't really think we need to talk too much about. This is the home opener against Wagner. Let's not talk about whether we're going to win or lose because I'm pretty sure we're all going to just say it's going to be a blowout. What do you want to see out of this game in terms of what the team does? Do you want to see them just playing young guys? Do you want to see them just escaping without injuries?
I mean, yeah, honestly, you kind of just hit the nail on the head with both of those. This is a team that I think, has like 2 wins over the past, like, couple years. It's like maybe 3 wins. I forget what it is exactly. But, yeah, don't do anything crazy. Get the lead. Get a 14-point, 21-point lead in the first quarter. And then just play it smart. Basically run it like a practice at that point. If you're up big enough, let's get Simon some reps. Let's get Wimsatt some reps. Let's get Vedral some reps. Let's get everyone reps. Like, the young guys, this is going to be their one game where you're getting live game reps. And Shiano mentioned it again today with the linebacker core, and it's all about repetition. Obviously, don't get those guys hurt because they're already depleted. But be very careful with them. Yep. Bubble wrap the fuck out of them. Maybe don't even play a linebacker in the second half.
Yeah,
but, yeah. I mean, if you have that many defensive linemen, figure something out there. But yeah, no, I think you just be smart. You get the lead. You walk out of here with a 21-point win, a 28-point win, whatever it is. Maybe more if you really want to be a dickhead, but there's really no point.
Yeah. This is like a basketball team playing the cupcakes in the early season. This is you want to obviously win. It also will be good to get all the young guys in. Especially if they want a redshirt. This is probably one of the 4 games that they can get in and see some meaningful playing time and get their feet wet too.
For sure. All right, let's move on to the next game. Rutgers is going down 95 to play Temple at the Link. Temple has been picked to finish last in the AAC conference this year. This is another one of those games where you kind of, if there were like 3 wins on the schedule, this is certainly one of them. I don't know if we need to talk about this matchup too long, but I guess we could just kind of copy paste what we just talked about. We just want to see, young guys get some action. They get a taste of a road environment.
We're going to know a lot about this Temple team after week 1. It's going to be the same thing with Rutgers. We'll know a lot after week 1. They play Duke week 1. They have an interesting they just released the depth chart today. Obviously a new coaching staff. Adam Shire from Rutgers is down there out of notable names. But Stan Drayton and his staff, first year, it seems like they might be okay. Not bad, not good. Like, they weren't good last year, so, I mean, you can't really get much worse. I think they had 1 conference win. Mm-hmm. I'm intrigued to see how they do against Duke because this is 2 first-year head coaches going against each other. If they put up a fight against Duke, I wouldn't be shocked if they put up a fight against Rutgers. Like, it's not like they're the worst team in the world out of nowhere, but I still think Rutgers wins. I just don't know. I think they'll put up a fight. That's all I'm saying. So before y'all go crazy and chop my head off, but it's going to be an interesting game, I think. Early, at least.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head there. I mean, Temple's not a bad team, and Rutgers. This is a game that again Rutgers needs to have if it wants to have a chance at the bowl game. So, Rutgers is going to have to be ready to go. I think you and I are both going to make the trip to Temple, so that'll be good to see the team down there. So, I think I heard that the same starting quarterback that put against Rutgers last year is starting again. So, obviously Rutgers had a lot of success against him. So, maybe they could just copy and paste the game plan a little bit. But I mean, obviously Rutgers is going to have to play well, and
Yeah, interestingly enough, I know I said Adam Shire's the only connection, but I just realized Preston Brown, the former Woodrow Wilson head coach, is down there. Jafar Williams, the former wide receivers coach, is their wide receivers coach. And then Marvin Questador, who I completely forgot about, coached with Shiano back in the day at Rutgers. I think he was a GA in like 2007, 2008. I know he's a guy that we mentioned on the board a million times over the past season because he was a name that really wanted that DB's job. Obviously, he didn't get it, and they chose to promote Lascari and bring in I can't coach. Who the hell's the other coach? I can't.
Orphe's coach.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Orphe?
Yeah, Mark Orphe. So, but yeah, honestly, a lot of connections here, and like you said, maybe a close game at first, but probably end up with a pretty significant Rutgers win.
Yeah, and it's also a good test, being on the road too. You kind of get to feel that out a little bit. The same thing as Boston College, week 1. So
yeah.
So up next we have the Big Ten home opener, and that's against Iowa. So Iowa's not the greatest offense, but they do have a lot of really good defenders this year. I would say they're borderline elite on defense between I think his name's Jack Campbell, their starting linebacker, and Riley Moss. They're both first-team All-Americans. If Chris and I at this point have Rutgers at 3-0, this game's a TBD in terms of the time. This could be a really, really big atmosphere. Like, I don't know if you guys remember last year at the beginning of the Ohio State game. That was almost a sellout, like pretty loud. It got really quiet really quickly, though. How do you guys see this game going?
Yeah, I mean, I forgot I was on mute. Yeah, it's they're 2-1. I think Iowa's probably going to handle them pretty easily. Now, is it going to be like a blowout? No, because I think this is going to be similar to that Michigan game where it was like 2013. I think it was 22-13, not 2013. Yeah, I think Iowa's offense is okay. I think, like you said, their defense is phenomenal. And as we know, again, I need this Rutgers offense to prove it to me before I believe I get any type of hope whatsoever. Until I see that, I mean, I'm going to be seeing is believing. I'm going to be in the other side of things, and I'm going to say that Rutgers offense isn't there yet. So I hate to say it, but I think that Iowa takes this one.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with everything you said. I think Iowa's defense is just gonna be too tough for Rutgers, and yeah, I mean Rutgers has to prove it on offense, exactly like you said. So Iowa played really well last year on defense. I think they were like top 10, top 5 in the country. At one point in the rankings, and
like that.
a lot of that was because of the way the defense played. And actually, I just did a college football draft yesterday, and Iowa is my starting defense. So I wonder how many fantasy points I'll get that week. So
Hopefully not many.
yeah.
I mean, I hate to say it, but if they're 3-0, like there's a shot. Put it like that. If they're not 3-0, then we're probably talking another loss, in my opinion.
Yeah, because Iowa starts off their first 3 weeks of the season. They play South Dakota State. Then they play home against Iowa State, and then they play home against Nevada. So the Rutgers game is actually the first road game of the season for them. They open up with 3 straight at home.
Yeah, interesting.
It could play a factor. I mean,
Yeah.
That's kind of what I talked about with Temple and Boston College. They'll have, Rutgers will have experience playing on the road at that point, and for the week after Iowa.
So let's just recap here. I have this game as a loss. Richie, you got it as a loss. Chris, you got it as a loss. All right, so Richie's got him at 2-2. I got him at 3-1. Chris has him at 3-1. This leads us into a big time matchup with the Buckeyes and the Shoe. I'm not even going to go too far into this one. I don't think we really need to go far into this one.
You're going to see a lot of Kyle McCord. Put it like that.
Yeah, I don't think Rutgers even would have a 1% chance of winning this game.
Nope. Kyle McCord comes in second quarter. Everyone's like, oh, my God, the future. And there we go.
Yep. All right.
Yeah, we can move along.
Yeah, so I got him at 3-2. Richie's got him at 2-3. Chris has him at 3-2. This opens up a very interesting game. So Rutgers is playing at home on a short week on a Friday night versus Nebraska. Now, Nebraska's been doing Nebraska things to start the season. I don't know if anyone watched the game at Dublin from this past weekend. Nebraska, one of the more inexplicable things I've seen in a football game recently, where they're up 11 in the second half. They go for an onside kick. Northwestern recovers it. They score on a short field, and then Nebraska doesn't score the rest of the game and end up losing. I think they were like 16-point favorites in that one too, Nebraska.
Yep.
So Nebraska is, Scott Frost entered the season on a red-hot seat, and now it's basically like he has some kind of clause in his contract where after a certain date, if he gets fired, the buyout's like significantly reduced. So it wouldn't surprise me if that countdown has just kind of started.
I'm glad you brought that up.
And Richie has a nugget for that.
I'm glad you brought that up. October 1st, it goes from 15 mil to 9 mil. October 7th, the game right after that drops.
Oh,
Rutgers.
okay.
Rutgers has a chance to put the nail in the coffin here. Will they? I don't know, but probably not, in my opinion. I think that they're still a pretty decent team. I think he's going to bounce back. I don't think you're ever going to onside kick again for the rest of the season if you're Nebraska, even if the game's on the line. I don't care. You don't do it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. This is a tough one. I mean, they've lost 7 straight games with all 7 losses coming in a single digit, and it's the first team to ever do that.
Yeah.
That's a ridiculous stat. Like, Now, mind you, if you look at the stats alone, like if you want to play devil's advocate here, Casey Thompson still threw for a shit ton of yards. I know he had 2 interceptions and 1 touchdown. Still threw for a ton of yards. They're still a decent team. They were predicted, but to win the Big Ten West by a couple people, including our infamous board member Kick, and then as well as Kirk Herbstreit. So I mean, those are two pretty notable names together in the same sentence. But yeah, no, I mean, I still think they're a pretty good team. I don't think that's a question. They had a 100-yard rusher. They had a 100-yard receiver in this game. Is Northwestern better than we think? Maybe that's what it is. But I still think Nebraska is still pretty good. I do think that in the end they're still going to pull away with this victory, and they'll probably get another single-digit loss or single-digit win. I think it's going to be a single-digit win for them, but I hate to sound like Mr. Negative over here, but it's not good. I mean, a lot of people are going to yell at me in the comments now.
Yeah, I think Rutgers is legit personally.
Ooh. Okay, I'm actually gonna pick Nebraska too in this one. One of the, I kind of pick. I did like a standings prediction, before the season during the summer, and I had Nebraska fairly high in the standings. Like I think Richie mentioned it, how they lost a bunch of games by a touchdown or less last season. I really thought that they were gonna, turn the tables this season, and then it literally happened again. So I mean, I don't know what's gonna really happen the rest of the way, but I think Nebraska just is the more talented team right now, and they're more equipped to battle in the Big Ten and to beat Rutgers. They have a talented quarterback, and a guy like Ramir Johnson, who played really well last season from Nebraska, didn't even get any touches, on Saturday, which I'm not really sure why. But I think it's just
it was a
overall
disciplinary issue. There was an issue at practice, and he got suspended for the game.
Okay. But yeah, I mean that again. I think Nebraska is just a better team. I mean, maybe there's distraction around the coach there, but Scott Frost. I mean, maybe. But yeah, I think. I mean, Friday. I mean, I will say that Rutgers does play well on weeknight games. You got Louisville from years ago, South Florida from around the same time. So I mean, the fans will be ready. I don't care what the record is. I think the fans will show up for Rutgers. But I mean, but at the end of the day, I think Nebraska is just a better team. I think they pull it out.
Yeah. So I agree that Nebraska is more talented. I'm wondering if they're just going to basically be already defeated halfway through the season, because they play 4 straight home games coming up. So this will be like really their first true road game. Like you could say that the Dublin game was a road game. It's not. Like it's kind of an exhibition almost. But they do play.
You see the people? That was like a home game for them.
It was like a home game, but also like it's a lot of people in Lamar Jackson jerseys out there. There's a lot of people in random. It's just like they have one opportunity to see American football, like big time American football year in Dublin, so they go and watch that game. But Nebraska plays Oklahoma at home before us. They play Indiana at home. They play Georgia Southern at home. They play North Dakota at home. If they lose 2 of those games, so Oklahoma and someone else, that's basically the final nail in Scott Frost's coffin. So I could just either see them kind of going through the motions or just totally defeated. And if that's the case, that's when I see Rutgers having the shot. Talent-wise, though, I don't think there's any doubt, especially with all the big transfers Nebraska got this year, that they're more talented. But I do think Rutgers has a legitimate shot, being a night home game and Nebraska just basically packing it in by that point in the season. Yeah. So I got this as a close loss. Richie, you got it as a loss.
Yeah.
Chris, you got it as a loss. So I got them at 3-3 at this point. Chris, you got them at 3-3. Richie's got them at 2-4. Mm-hmm. That leads into a bye week. So we'll have a bye between Nebraska and between Indiana, which is also a home game. Indiana is arguably the worst team in the Big Ten this year. Rutgers somehow beat them 38-3 last year in a game that I think was a pick'em, or Rutgers was a slight underdog in.
Yeah,
that game was in Bloomington. Indiana's obviously lost Michael Penix Jr. He's the quarterback. He won the job at Washington recently. I think this is a pretty easy win for Rutgers, honestly, at this point in the season. What do you guys think?
I don't know if I'd say easy win. I think they win. I don't know if I'd say easy, though, because they have a new quarterback, Connor Bazelak, out of Missouri, a transfer. There's no joke. I know he technically hasn't been named the starter yet, although it looks like he will be. They have a couple new offensive linemen as well. There's also a couple veterans. I still think Rutgers wins this because you get a bye week of a break. You get everyone back healthy again, like fully 100%. I know, obviously, like that whole bye week, like you could be 100% during the season, but you're not really 100% playing each and every week. So getting that bye week is huge. You get a lot more time to study film. And it's a home game too. On top of that, plus, like you said, they beat the shit out of them last year. So I don't see why they won't beat them again this year. I don't know if it's going to be a blowout because I still think they're a pretty decent team. But I do think they're going to win, probably like a touchdown spread. I would say it's around there.
Yeah, I'm also gonna pick Rutgers in this one. This is my fourth win of the season. I think like you said, Rutgers played really well last year. I was actually a little surprised how well they played against Indiana last year. But yeah, going by everyone's predictions in the preseason, Indiana's likely to finish last in the Big Ten. Maybe they're surprised and play better. Obviously, that's why you play the games. But I think just overall, coming off that bye week is going to be big. They're going to be fresher. It's a home game again. So I think Rutgers is going to win this one and maybe kind of get momentum back on their side.
All right. So moving on, this is the start of a really rough 4-game stretch for Rutgers where they play at Minnesota, home against Michigan, at Michigan State, and home against Penn State. I just kind of want to put this out there. Do you guys see them winning any of these 4 games? I'll start with you, Chris.
I have this as kind of like a toss-up. I think they have a shot against Minnesota. I think overall Minnesota will win. But this and probably the Michigan or Michigan State game were more quote unquote winnable for Rutgers. But obviously I have them at 4-8 for the season overall. So I don't have them winning any of these last couple games. But if I were to pick one where Rutgers had a shot, it would be Minnesota. They're not the upper echelon of the Big Ten. I think they'll do really well in the West. But in terms of teams like Penn State, Ohio State, and Michigan, they're not at that level. Obviously, the PJ Fleck factor will be something to keep an eye on for Rutgers. Maybe there's an added incentive for this game too. So, but this is one game where Rutgers definitely has a shot, though.
I'm gonna say the opposite. I think Minnesota's a really good team this year. Tanner Morgan's obviously always been pretty good. Mohamed Ibrahim's a good running back. They returned their top 4 receivers. Offensive line's pretty much solidified. I think 3 or 4 guys returning there. This is the Halloween weekend. I think that PJ Fleck's going to give you nightmare fuel. Like he's just a good coach at the end of the day. I think he had 9 wins last year.
Yeah.
I can't see him losing this one. Especially, it's the same thing as I said before with Halfley. That this game means a little more to PJ than most of the other ones on the schedule, just because it's your former mentor in Greg Schiano. You have a lot of Rutgers guys on this staff as well. I do think that they're going to end up winning this one pretty easily.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Rutgers is good enough to beat a quality Big Ten opponent on the road who's not incredibly banged up. So I think Minnesota pulls this one off. I don't really think we need to go into every game because I don't see them winning any of these 4 games in this stretch between Minnesota, Michigan, Michigan State, and Penn State. I do think if there was going to be a close game, it might be against Penn State, given it's late in the season. Penn State sometimes can pack it in if they're 6-4 heading into the final 2 weeks. They don't really have a whole lot to play for. Richie, you probably have a better idea of what they're going to be like this year. But what do you think? Do you guys think Rutgers could beat Maryland on the road?
I don't know if they could stop Talia.
Yeah, I don't think so
Going back
either.
to the Penn State thing, I hate to say it, but Penn State's going to be really good this year. New offensive line over there, same OC, a lot of veterans. They added a 1,500-yard receiver transfer in Mitchell Tinsley, who's phenomenal. I
He's
don't
the
want
West Kentucky guy, right?
Yeah, I don't want to go too crazy talking Penn State here, but I have them my bold pick of the year for the Penn State football team is they're going to beat Ohio State this year. They're not going to win the Big Ten, but they're going to beat Ohio State this year.
Wow.
They're really good this season. A ton of running backs, wide receivers. I have a tough time picking Rutgers over them. And then the Maryland game, I guess there's a shot. That's one that's like that rivalry week or whatever. Maryland's such a weird team because their recruiting's been really bad. Loxley might not even be the coach at that point, for all we know. It seems like fans are starting to get pissed off down there. He's taking a lot of people that, like, you see, like, a lot of Jersey guys that don't have Rutgers offers. And it's, I mean, yeah, there's some big names that don't have Rutgers offers as well in Jersey, but there's just a lot of, like, kids that don't have committable offers anywhere else. And Lox is just like, yeah, I'll take them. And it's like, what are you doing? Like,
a lot of his big recruits that he landed, too, have left. Like, a lot of the high 4-star, low 5-star type kids have transferred out. Especially the kids from Florida, so it's kind
make or
of a
break
weird
for
situation.
Yeah, it's make or break. And Talia's phenomenally talented, but you're going to get beat the shit out of by Ohio State the week before. So now it's like, I think that's one where I really think Rutgers has a legitimate shot at. Right now, I'm going to say no, but if you go mid-season, re-ask me again, week 6, week 7, and it might change my answer completely.
I'm probably in the same boat. Exactly the last point you just made. I mean, look at last year. Both teams were, last game of the season. Both teams needed a win to go to a bowl game, and Rutgers. Maryland absolutely destroyed Rutgers. The passing game just ripped them apart. I think maybe possibly that happens again. I don't know. They still have Talia back. A lot of their receivers are back. A lot of guys in offense are really good. So I think it might be a tough day again at the office again for Rutgers. But again, ask me, if he ask me again that week for that, podcast, something like that prediction, maybe I'll change my mind. But right now I'm also gonna pick Maryland, but Rutgers definitely has a shot there though.
So I kind of want to just play a quick game before we sign off here. Just give me your guys' bowl case. Tell me a story about what Rutgers has to do this year to get to 6 wins, what players have to break out, what kind of things have to break Rutgers' way to get to that point.
Do you want to go first, Chris?
So the first thing, I'll start real quick. So I know two things kind of mesh together. One, the offensive line really takes a step forward. They find a starting 5, backups that are really capable, and they really take the next step and play really well together. And then, to go along that, a quarterback really shines. Maybe Gavin Wimsatt, really, he played a little bit last year, but maybe he just, improves so much that maybe we didn't see in practice. Maybe something clicks for him at some point during the season. And so I'll start there, just to start things off. We talked about having to see the offense, show the offense need to show that they can score points. And those are two big factors right there.
Yeah, I know you kind of touched on the offensive line thing, so I'm not going to really go there because I think that's pretty obvious. Wide receiver core has to step up as well. Taj Harris, there's a lot of hype behind him. He does have an 800-plus yard season with Syracuse. Syracuse sucks, so that kind of tells you where he is in talent-wise. Someone's got to step up on offense other than him. Sounds like Sean Ryan's been doing pretty well. He's got some pretty good hands, it sounds like. You got a tall receiver threat for a change, too. And then on defense, this is a whole totally new staff, so we really don't know what to expect out of the defense. I know we're just kind of counting on the fact that it's a Schiano defense. It's got to be decent, at least. At the very least, is decent. But it's a new DC, new DBs coach, another new DBs coach, a new linebackers coach, new D-line coach. Now there's a little bit of familiarity between some of these guys. Obviously, it sounds like D-line's pretty deep. DBs, there's technically 4 on staff if you count Lascari, Orphy, Schiano, and Harris-Simiak have all coached DBs at some point. DJ Heatherman, it's the linebacker core. If they could step up too and just come out of nowhere, and maybe Tyreen Powell is that guy that we think he is, and someone else like a Deion Jennings, he starts showing life as a 5th-year guy, or maybe a Anthony Johnson or a Daryl DiGiami or Austin Dean, one of these guys steps up, and it's like, oh, holy shit, this team's this defense is legit. Harris-Simiak's well known, we've said it before, as a X and O specialist guy who can change schemes up immediately if need be. So maybe he ends up being this shining gem that no one really knows about yet. Maybe Fleck knew about him, maybe Schiano knew about him, that's why he's here, and that could be the case.
That's a great point, Richie, because that was a huge point of contention for a lot of Rutgers fans last year, was how bad Rob Smith's schemes were.
No,
and if you have anything with like any sort of thought behind them, you could just like a good coach can get the most out of their players. Rob Smith was not getting the most out of his defense last year. So I do think that under the right scheme where Hirosimiak's using his players to their skill sets, I do think we could see a notable improvement from the defense, along with a lot of the young defensive linemen last year are now going to be much more relied on this year, and we get to really see what they're kind of made of, like Keontae Hamilton, Aaron Lewis, Wesley Bailey. Like, there's a lot of talent on that line that if they can kind of gel together and really become disruptive, getting into the backfield regularly, like causing, like not allowing, even though we have a good secondary is only really as good as the pass rush, because if you let a quarterback have 4 or 5 seconds back there constantly, they're going to find open players. That's just the way college football is played. So I think it all kind of starts with the trenches, like you guys are both alluding to, both offensive and defensive line. And I think there's legit potential for both of them to kind of outshine what we think they might be.
Yeah. I know you mentioned Rob Smith. I got to say it real quick before we end this. Temple +7 versus Duke. You know damn well that they're giving Rob Smith the reins. Like, somehow this guy still can coach a defense. This guy's been fired like 4 or 5 times.
Well, no, Duke stole him from us. Remember, they definitely came in and stole him right out of our backyard.
Oh no! Bye. Don't leave.
Don't.
+7 and then 51.5 overall. Oh, I'm taking an under and I'm taking +7. Like, ooh, that's my money pick for the week.
One thing I just want to make one point about how Rutgers get to 6 wins too. I know we didn't talk about it, but Rutgers places a lot of emphasis on special teams. They work on it a ton in practice. Rutgers might have the best all around special teams in the Big Ten. I mean, they got All-American, Adam Korsak, the new kicker from Ireland, Jude McDadamy, something like that. He showed he had a really big leg in training camp. Obviously, they have, Aaron Cruikshank and Josh Youngblood returning kicks. So, they might be able to, steal some points there in terms of, big returns or even touchdowns. And, maybe they're able to get, longer field goals this year. That was something that they weren't able to do in the past. Obviously, Adam Korsak, has gone 50 years without getting a touchback. So if he could pin other opposing teams deep at their own end of the field again, that only helps the offense. It helps the defense, which it could ultimately help the offense as well if they could get short field. So special teams is gonna play a huge factor in how Rutgers does this season.
Absolutely. Do you guys have anything you wanted to add before we sign off here? You've kind of gone a little long. Packed this with a lot of information for our fans.
No, I don't really think anything. Obviously, I'm going up to Boston on Friday, so you got any food recommendations? I know we posted a couple from the Boston guy, our Boston Rivals guy on the War Room last week, but anything to do up there, just because, I'm going to Fenway. I'm going to not wear any Yankee gear. I'm sure they'll get pissed, but I don't feel like risking that one.
No, probably a good bet there.
Yeah, that's really it. I'm interested to see what this team looks like. We forgot to bring up the depth chart. The fuck?
Yeah, no depth chart. What he's alluding to is John was supposed to release the depth chart, and nothing came today from the press conference. I think this is the first time he's done that. Not release the depth chart, period.
I know. Last year he kind of says like he doesn't really care about the depth chart in terms of releasing it. He was like it never changed throughout the season. He goes, I don't know, I don't care about that. So who knows? A lot of teams nowadays don't release a depth chart, but I know the fans obviously like having it. So.
Harbaugh called it like 20-year outdated or something today. He's a weirdo.
Did you hear about what Michigan's doing for their quarterback depth chart?
Oh yeah, QB. We're not naming we're going to announce a starter that we're not naming a starter. It's like QB1 gets to play this game, QB2 that game, and QB3 this game, and it's like what?
The first wild. 2 games they're going to start 2 different guys, and then based on how both perform, they're going to name a starter for the game 3 and the rest of the season.
Just give it to Cade. Like you just don't want to piss off McCarthy. That's all it is.
Even Shound said today that more than one quarterback might play in a game. So
mean, that wouldn't surprise me. They did that a lot last year.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
And here comes Evan Chase Dodd Simon. Out of
We'll
nowhere.
see giant Langen run the ball again.
Yeah, he's gonna play quarterback at some point this year.
I'm sure. I mean, he was good with that short yardage stuff. So
Yeah.
wouldn't surprise me if he went back to the well there. But all right, guys. Well, thanks for listening. We'll have another podcast later this week, I think. But that one's a bit of a surprise. But for the rest of us, thanks again for listening. And this is another episode of the Night Report podcast signing off.